The villa 5 years ago. Every summer we come here for a month. Camille went inside to powder her nose, and her phone stayed on the table. The screen lit up. The wine was wonderful, and the evening with you even better. Waiting for you tomorrow at our secret place, while your husband's at his tasting. It was from Luciano, our neighbor down the coast, the man I introduced to Camille 3 years ago. I took a slow sip of cold Prosecco and smiled. I wasn't about to ruin my vacation with a scene. If she wanted a secret place, I'd give her one she'd never forget. Funny thing about a message like that, you'd expect the wine to go bitter in your mouth. It didn't. The Prosecco still tasted the way it always tasted on that terrace. The sea still looked the way it always looked. The only thing that shifted was inside me, and even that shift was quieter than I would have guessed. She came back out a minute later and slid the phone into her bag without even glancing at the screen. The perfume I bought her last Christmas drifted across the table. Then she leaned over the back of my chair, kissed the top of my head, and asked if I wanted to order something to eat. Of course, I told her, whatever she wanted. She laughed and said something about the chef at the place down the hill. The last of the sun caught her hair, and I sat there thinking, 20 years. 20 years of this woman, and 3 years of Luciano apparently slipping in between us while I poured the wine. Not a word came out of me. Not one. Instead, while she scrolled through the menu on her phone, tomorrow was already coming together in my head, every piece of it, calm as folding a napkin. That night, in bed, she curled into my shoulder the way she's done for 2 decades. I kissed her forehead and told her I'd been thinking. Tomorrow we should go into town, just the two of us. A proper day. Shopping, lunch, the long walk along the cliff she always loves. She lit up like a teenager. That look used to undo me. That night, I just smiled back and turned out the light. In the morning, I drove her down to the boutiques. The Dior dress she'd been circling for 2 summers. The cream one with the thin straps that made her look 30 again. I bought it without flinching. Didn't even look at the price. Handed over the card, asked the girl to wrap it, and watched my wife twirl in the mirror like a woman who hadn't been planning to meet another man the next morning. We had lunch by the water. She held my hand across the table. She told me she'd missed days like this. So had I said, and I meant it in a way she couldn't possibly understand. Then, over coffee, as casually as if I were mentioning the weather, I told her about the surprise I had planned for her tomorrow. My old tasting trip up in the hills was finally confirmed for the morning, I told her. A full day, vineyards, the works. I'd be gone before she woke, but I didn't want her stuck at the villa alone. So I'd booked her something. A private yacht. Just her, the sea, a captain, lunch on the water, the whole afternoon. Her surprise would be waiting at the pier at 10. You should have seen her face. She put her hand on mine and called me the sweetest man in the world. She said she didn't deserve me. Don't worry about that, I told her. She'd get exactly what was coming. Back at the villa, she went straight to the bedroom to try the new dress on again, planning her morning out loud through the open door, sandals, the gold earrings I gave her on our 10th, the straw hat. A small glass of red was already in my hand by the time I stepped out onto the terrace. The same chair, the phone still on the table. The marina contact came up on my own phone. Confirmed the boat. Confirmed the captain. Then back inside, a kiss on her cheek, and a soft reminder to get some sleep. Big day tomorrow. The alarm went off at 6. I let her sleep. I dressed quietly, grabbed my overnight bag, and slipped out to the kitchen. The villa was that beautiful kind of empty you only get in Amalfi at dawn. Pale light, the smell of the sea drifting in through the open windows, the tiles cold under my bare feet. The coffee took 2 minutes. Strong, the way I like it. Then back upstairs, where I stood in the doorway of our bedroom for a long moment, watching her sleep. Her hair on the pillow, the new Dior dress laid out on the chair in the corner, ready for her big morning. She looked peaceful. She had no idea. When she stirred, I sat on the edge of the bed and told her I was heading out for the tasting. A kiss on her cheek, a reminder about the captain at 10 sharp, and a wish that she enjoy every minute. She mumbled something into the pillow about loving me. I told her I'd see her tonight. Bag in hand, down the stairs, into the car. I drove exactly 5 minutes down the coast road and pulled into a small cafe I knew, parked out back where the car couldn't be spotted from the road, ordered an espresso, and texted the captain a single word. Confirmed. He texted back a thumbs up. The morning would do its work. The other piece was Luciano. I picked up her tablet from the kitchen counter, where she'd left it charging the night before, and opened her messages. I typed him a short note in her voice. Told him to meet me on the yacht at 9:30. Said I had a surprise for the two of us. Said my husband had already left for the tasting in the hills. He answered within a minute. Said he'd be there. He even added a little heart. I closed the tablet, wiped the screen with the edge of my shirt, and set it back exactly where she'd left it. By 8:30, I was driving down to the marina. The captain was waiting at the end of the dock with a clipboard and that quiet face the good ones have. I shook his hand, walked him through the morning one more time, and slipped him an envelope thick enough to make sure he remembered every instruction. He nodded once. That was all I needed. Back at the villa by 9:15. Camille was still upstairs. I could hear the shower running, music playing on her phone. She had no idea I was in the house. I poured myself a fresh espresso and stepped out onto the terrace behind the lemon trees, where the wrought iron bench sits in the shade. The tablet on the dining room table was already set up. Lens pointed at the chair where I'd sit. Everything in place. I waited. She came down the stairs at 9:45, like a woman walking into the best day of her life. The Dior dress, the straw hat, the gold earrings. She talked to her reflection in the hallway mirror, asked it if she looked all right, laughed at her own answer. From behind the lemon trees, I watched her grab her little white bag, slip on her sandals, and float out the front gate toward the path that leads down to the pier. Humming. My wife was humming. I gave it 10 minutes. Then I walked back inside, sat down at the long table in the dining room where the tablet was waiting, and checked the framing one last time. Smoothed the collar of my linen shirt. Took a sip of the espresso. The words from the night before were folded on a piece of paper next to the keyboard, but I didn't need them anymore. Every line was already in my head. I hit record, sat down, looked into the camera, and waited a beat. Then I smiled, very slightly, and began. Down at the pier, the morning was doing exactly what mornings in Amalfi do. Pale gold light on the water, gulls turning over the harbor, the smell of salt and coffee from the little bar at the end of the dock. Camille walked up in her Dior dress like she owned the place. The captain was waiting, very polite, hand out to help her aboard. She gave him her best smile, the one she used to save for me. She stepped onto the deck looking for the ice bucket, the chilled glass, the rose petals, whatever her imagination had prepared her for. What she found instead was Luciano. He was sitting in one of the lounge chairs in yesterday's shirt, hair still damp from a quick shower, looking about as confused as a man can look. He stood up when he saw her. She stopped where she was. Neither of them said anything for a second. Then her eyes drifted past him. That's when she saw the suitcases. Both of them, lined up on the deck like they were already on their way somewhere. Her big one, her carry-on, the little garment bag with a dress folded inside. All of it. She took one step toward Luciano, mouth open, ready to ask the question. And right then, the engine started up underneath her feet. The captain didn't say a word. He just eased the boat back from the pier, swung the bow around, and pointed it toward the open water. Smooth, practiced, no drama. Camille turned her head toward the dock as it slid away from her, and you could see the moment something cold went through her chest. The straw hat, the Dior dress, the bag with the day's plans inside it. All of it suddenly looking very silly out there on that deck. Luciano dropped back into his chair, put his face in his hands for a moment, then let them fall and stared at the boards between his feet. He wasn't going to be any help to her. He was already 100 miles away in his own head, trying to figure out how to get home without his wife at the winery, finding out he'd spent the night chasing somebody else's. Camille walked to the rail. She gripped it with both hands. She looked back at the shore one more time, at the villa up on the hill, white against the green, the terrace she'd left less than an hour ago. She couldn't see me, but I could see her. The tablet on the table was still recording the live feed from the captain's camera, the one I'd asked him to angle just so. Her shoulders rose and fell once. Just once. Then her own tablet, in the bag at her feet, gave a small chime. She fished it out with hands that weren't quite steady. A notification. A video file, sent from me. A glance at Luciano. He didn't look up. She tapped it. There I was on the screen, sitting on our terrace, the same terrace where she'd left her phone on the table 2 nights ago. White linen shirt. Espresso in front of me. The lemon trees behind my shoulder. I looked relaxed. I was relaxed. I smiled. Very small, and I spoke to her like we were still at breakfast. Camille, I paid for the boat as far as Naples. The captain will drop you at the port, and a taxi will be waiting there to take you to a hotel. The lawyer sent the papers to your email this morning. I'm keeping the villa. It was bought before the marriage. I closed the joint account yesterday, and your share has been moved to your personal one. It's enough to start again. 20 years was a good run. From here, each of us walks our own road. A slow sip of the espresso. Set it down. A small nod to the camera, and the video ended. Camille sat down on the bench along the rail. Slowly, the tablet went flat in her lap, screen dark. She didn't cry. Not right then, anyway. She just stared at the wood of the deck like it owed her an explanation. The boat kept moving. The coast slid past her shoulder, village after village. The white houses stacked up the cliffs, the orange roofs, the church bells carrying out over the water the way they do at that hour. Now the same coast was walking away from her at 12 knots. Back at the villa, I closed the tablet and stood up, stretched my shoulders. The terrace was bright now, the late morning sun warming the tiles, the lemon trees giving off that sharp, clean smell they give off when the heat hits them. A single bird somewhere in the branches. The sea down below, very quiet. The linen napkin got folded. The empty espresso cup, carried into the kitchen myself, rinsed, set upside down on the towel by the sink. The phone on the counter buzzed once. A message from the captain. 2 words. On schedule. I read it. Set the phone face down on the marble. Didn't answer. Then I went upstairs and changed for the spa. The whole spa was booked for the rest of the trip. 3 weeks. Massage in the mornings, the sauna in the afternoons, dinner brought up to a lounger by the pool if I wanted it that way. I'd had it arranged for 2 days. I just hadn't told her. I walked down the path in soft slippers and a robe. The girl at the front desk smiled and called me by name. She led me out to the terrace by the bigger pool, the one with the view down the cliffs. Turquoise water. Nobody else in sight. A small table with a glass of cold mineral water already waiting. I sat down on the lounger, closed my eyes for a long second, felt the heat of the stone through the robe. Camille came to mind. Somewhere out past the headland by now, the wind in her hair, the Dior dress not quite the day she'd imagined. Luciano staring at his shoes. The 20 years, the dinners, the trips, the woman I'd loved and the man I'd introduced her to like a fool. Then I let it go. All of it. I took a long, slow breath out, the kind you don't realize you've been holding for years. I hadn't fought. I hadn't shouted. I just closed the chapter and walked on. The sea sounded clean. That was last summer. Camille's back in the States. Last I heard,